Hey, everybody, I got a question for you. So, is it kind of scaring you, some of the things that your partner's doing lately? Like, you're like, I think she's leaving me. I think she's doing all these things she's never done before. She wants to get back into her career that she left behind before she started having kids. She's wanting to do things outside of me, having relationships with other people, not necessarily the opposite sex, but friendships. She wants to invest in herself in ways. And you're like, I think she's preparing to leave. I think she's done with this relationship, but maybe you're like, I don't know if that's the case because she's also sending me signals of I see her doing things to stay in the relationship. But the stuff that she does that can feel scary, which is she starts to do a lot of things outside of you in your relationship. So let's go ahead and discuss that today. I have an expert on this. Welcome to Beyond the Facade. I'm your host, Luke Gordon, Men's Program Director at Choose Recovery Services and founder of the Blueprint Institute. For years, I've had the privilege of working with men who are tired of living behind masks, tired of repeating the same patterns, and ready for something more. It's work that's deeply personal to me because my own recovery journey has taught me firsthand both the challenges and the rewards of pursuing authenticity. This podcast exists to help men build lives rooted in authenticity, integrity, and meaningful connection. Together, we're going to explore recovery, relationships, emotional health, and personal growth, and the challenges that keep us from becoming who we truly want to be. Through honest conversations, practical tools, and real-world insights, and occasional stories from my own journey, my goal is to help you better understand yourself, strengthen your relationships, and create lasting change. So whether this is your first episode or you've been with us from the very beginning, you're joining a community of men committed to doing the deeper work. So welcome to Beyond the Facade. Let's get started. Hey, Tyler, so glad to have you here today. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what we need to know about you? I was excited to hear from you. I've listened to your podcast before. In fact, if you could please share about you and Brennan's podcast, that'd be amazing so our listeners can go check that out. But tell us about you so we can dive into the subject.
Awesome, Luke. Yeah, it's good to be here with you today. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I do a podcast called The Therapy Brothers with my brother Brandon, who's a licensed clinical social worker. And we basically just have people call in and ask questions about their own recovery processes, and that becomes a podcast. So, yeah, it's my life passion to be in the realm of recovery here. I have a personal side to it as well, where almost 20 years ago, RD Day happened, and I've been working my own process of recovery ever since. And I love recovery. I love the lifestyle. I love what it brings. I love the vibrance, the color, the joy. And I want people who have been where I've been to realize that there's a beautiful other side to this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the name of your podcast?
The Therapy Brothers.
Okay, cool. One of my favorite podcasts ever came from you guys. And it was one on integrity. It was on the Still Beam. And I actually referred to it a couple episodes ago about nice guy syndrome, no more Mr. Nice Guy. So
Yeah.
you got some gold on there. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, so here's the topic today. I'm going to relate it to a story. And then, Tyler, whether you pull in your own experience or just your professional experience, it would be much appreciated. Okay, so early on in my journey, I was unfaithful to my wife. Spent decades in secrecy and hiding, and everything came out. Part of it I was caught in, part of it I confessed. It was both disclosure and discovery. And it was a scary time for me. And it was a scary time, and not even, and that sounds a little insensitive to Alana. It was really heavy for her. I'm going to focus on me for just a second, as insensitive as that is. I remember watching probably the first 18 months of the journey. And I remember my therapist like telling me over and over again, I'd be like, I think she's about to leave. She's talked about divorce, and he's like, Luke, you're always paying attention to those pieces of looking for proof that she is going to leave. And you're not looking at all the proof that she's actually not leaving. And I'm like, yeah, but guess what? She's doing stuff like going back to school and getting her education. She wants to get a part-time job. She's taking trips with her girlfriends, like to recovery conferences. And I don't know, Sean, it looks like evidence that she's about to get out of here and about to exit and leave this relationship. And in fact, she says it sometimes. She's like, Luke, I can't depend on you. Like you did all these things. I need to get my career back underneath I got to get not a plan B, but almost it felt like a plan A. Like, And it was just felt so scary to me, Tyler. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm doing everything I can. I'm not slipping. I'm not doing all this stuff. But it feels like the relationship is dwindling, even with I do everything I can. And I remember somebody way later in the journey telling me something that I wish somebody would have said earlier. And by the way, my therapist was awesome. But he said, Luke, one of the most important parts of the journey is to be able to, your partner needs to differentiate herself from you. And she's lived a life, especially faith-based, where you guys were one. And doesn't know what she does. She's lost herself in this experience through the cheating, through the secrecy. And she's in the process of finding out who she is. And you can either give her wings to fly, or you can try to strap her to the ground and make sure she doesn't go anywhere. And he's like, I'm noticing you do a lot of holding her down, comparing to encouraging her to fly. So Tyler, that's what I was hoping we could talk about today. What's coming up for you to Tyler as we talk about this stuff?
Oh man, I love the topic. First, Luke, I would just say that I 100% relate to you personally. I when recovery started for me, I marked my recovery by the levels of energy that I was living from, and at first it was pure secrecy, hiding, isolation, gaslighting, and shame. And then the shame kind of converted to fear, like fear I'm going to lose everything, especially my wife. And that was probably, a couple of years of recovery work was driven by the fear of losing her. And I started to do things that exactly what you're talking about. And I don't know if it was conscious all the time, but I was trying to hold her in the relationship because I didn't believe she should stay with me. I didn't believe in myself.
Mm.
And I felt like if she saw what I saw in the mirror, she'd figure it out and quickly get out of there. And so she did. She actually went back to school, and that freaked me out. And she started saying things like, I need to make sure I can protect myself and have another life if I need to. And that would scare me. And I had some conversations similar to yours where people started to point out that the only way I could have the relationship that I wanted, that I actually wanted in my life, was to help her make it a choice to stay
Mm.
instead of trying to hold her in the relationship. Like I felt like if you've ever watched Beauty and the Beast, when he takes Belle into the castle and he's like trying to be like coercive and like, you will join me for dinner and you're going to stay here. And like, it's like, man, all he did was just make her want to be with him less because he was showing up. I call it playing small. He was playing small. He wasn't stepping into his power, into his growth, into his differentiation. He was trying to cling to her and keep her at the same unhealthy level that he was still at.
Yeah. And can you talk about how that's done consciously or subconsciously?
Yeah, yeah. So we talk about three recoveries with our clients where there's a his recovery, her recovery, and then an our recovery that will happen. And it's really interesting to watch this because so many times you'll see one of the partners start to actually catch the vision of recovery and they start to go. And then they'll just kind of go into like a holding pattern. And when you start asking them about it, you start going like, hey, what's happening? And they will say, I feel it. I feel the tension in my relationship that if I don't slow down, I'm going to end up breaking my relationship because my partner's not coming along. And so
Mm.
they're trying to slow down to hold on to keep it going, but they're actually hampering their own progress because they don't want to actually have a breach in that relationship. So that's
Mm.
one thing that happens. And then of course all the other things that you see happening. I wonder what it was like for you, Luke, when she's like, "Yeah, I'm going on a women's retreat about recovery," and what it must have been like for you in your own brain to be like, "She's going to go and everyone's going to tell her to leave him and that she can do better for herself." And like, it would be
Did
pretty
I already
easy.
talk to you about this? It feels like you're just like, I already told you what happened in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it would be easy for you to do whatever you could to kind of subvert that or get busy or not be able to afford it. Or, the education one is a really big one, especially with like the men that I work with when their wives start wanting to get more education.
Uh-huh.
They aren't very supportive. Sometimes they don't help out with making sure that the child care gets taken care of or the financial part of it gets covered. And they think that they're protecting themselves by holding on to something when in reality what they're doing is they're digging the dirt out from underneath their own feet
Yeah.
and they never get any solid ground.
Well, that's what that really hit home with me when my therapist said, Luke, give her wings. Like just or give her wings. Allow her to fly away and watch what happens. Just watch. And I'm like, okay, I trust you. I trust you. And I found myself having to have that dialogue with myself over and over again. Like, because I would say in the most subconscious, I think subconscious ways, I would sabotage her. I remember her she's going through school to become a therapist, and she knew the field she wanted to go into. She's like, I'm going to go to work for a therapy office, and lived in Las Vegas at the time. And I remember going like, and it felt so logical to me. I'm like, okay, you're going to go get a part-time job at a therapy office, but you're going to pay more for childcare than you make part-time at the therapy office. And I was
Yeah,
like, Alana, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what do you do? But now I step back and I'm like, it had nothing to do with the fact that she wasn't going to make money. It was, I am so scared once she gets healthy or once she sees if there's distance between us in any way, she'll actually see the real me, and then it doesn't make sense to be with me anymore. Right.
that's right.
So I would
That's right.
keep her as close as I could to me so she didn't see that, and that was definitely more subconscious than conscious. And it was very uncomfortable to notice later. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I remember we were into our own process a few years, and my wife was really struggling still with, of course, with like the forgiveness process, with the trust process. And she was hyper focused on the fact that like she felt stuck still. And she finally came to me and she said, "Hey, Tyler, like the best chance we have is if I know that I can choose you again instead of feeling like I just have to stay with you. And I need to go and do these things to understand that I know that I'm going to be okay no matter what. And then if I choose to stay, it'll be my choice to stay." And that doesn't sound very romantic, but but if you look at healthy relationships, even though that word differentiation, right? Healthy differentiation is where I know who I am and I know who you are, and I choose to offer myself to this relationship because it's from a knowing offering place rather than, our world lives in a world where she's going to complete me and I'll complete her, and then we'll all be one. But now we're trying to extract from each other when there's nothing to take anymore. And
Yeah.
and so the pathway forward really is differentiation for both partners, where the men, like you and I, have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I don't know how long she's staying for, but I want to like what I see in the mirror. And I'm going to do everything in my power today to live with integrity and like what I see in the mirror. And if for as long as she stays, I hope that eventually she'll see that I'm sincere. And I want her to feel like she's got a catch, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is kind of, I love that you say it's not very romantic, but if you think about it as a whole, what you actually do, it's very caring and loving and selfless. Do you, do you want, if you go about it in a healthy way, how did you respond, Tyler, when she said that? Because I want to normalize the experience that we have to work through on our own. Like, instead of just going, and I'm not trying to lead you, Tyler, whatever happened, happened. But I also want to, guys, go, if your partner is differentiating and you're not, right? What it will look like inside of you, that battle, and how we can be healthy in it, like where we can go to get the support that we need. Because we're not made to be alone. So can you comment
Yeah,
on that, Tyler?
100%. When she started saying those kinds of things, I was stuck in this place of the Mr. Nice Guy place too. So I had to say yes to her no matter what.
Yeah, you had
Right.
to, right?
Yeah.
'Cause you
Like
have a
I
choice,
had to,
right?
because that's because that's what I have to do to be a good man, to placate her, to make sure her feelings are always okay. But deep inside, so I'm like right to her face. I'm like, yeah, like I guess whatever you need to do. That's a great idea. But on the inside, it was like pure turmoil. Like, and at first I was all by myself, and by then I had started to get a few people in my life, and I remember calling people like my brother and being like, dude, I think my
Hey,
marriage
Tyler,
is.
what was the turmoil though? Like, can you, before you talk to other people,
Mhm.
what was it like in your brain and in your
It
body?
was it was not just the brain, it was the whole body. It was a full body experience for me.
Yeah.
I'd get sick to my stomach, I'd get cloudiness in my head, I'd get my shoulders start to shrug, I'd start to like go like emotionally into the fetal position kind of.
Yeah.
And then I'd start to have this panic go through me, like, oh no, oh no, oh no, like I've ruined everybody's life. I'm gonna ruin everything. I'm gonna lose everything. The one thing that matters the most to me. So that anxiety was kicking up really strong. And it did help. It helped to have people like my brother to call, but it also helped for me to go to places where I had other people in my life. I had really good church leaders. I had a couple of other people, a really good mentor, a couple of other people that I worked with, and I would process all of my garbage there. And they would usually put me back on my feet enough to say, hey, like, can't you see the forest for the trees here? She's doing exactly what she needs to do. Like, and she's actually, the fact that she's doing this and telling you this is her way of saying, I want it to work out. Like, I just want
Yeah.
to make sure that
Help me have
I can
clarity.
make it work, you know? So getting that clarity was helpful. And then the other thing was physiology. I did a lot of breath work. I did a lot of nature stuff. I did a lot of exercise, just grounding over and over and over again, because it always felt like the ground was shifting underneath my
Thank
feet.
you. Thank you for saying that. So often we're just talking or thinking, and it's not going to be enough. We're going to take a quick break for a moment. I'd like to share some things that we have coming up.
Men, can I ask you a question? Have you ever found yourself thinking, I know why I do this, so why do I keep ending up in the same place? I'm Hallie Roderick, and I've had the privilege of sitting with many men in this healing space over the years. And one thing I've learned is this, that insight is important, but insight alone doesn't create transformation. You can understand your story, you can recognize your patterns, and still find yourself feeling stuck. And that's exactly why we created the Awakening the Man Within Somatic Intensive. It'll be held November 8th through the 11th in Spanish Fork, Utah. And this isn't just another weekend of lectures. It's an opportunity to reconnect with your body, your emotions, your nervous system, and ultimately the man you've always been underneath the pain, the shame, and survival strategies. If you're tired of simply surviving and you're ready to experience healing on a deeper level, I'd love to personally invite you to join us. Sometimes your next breakthrough isn't found by learning more, it's found by experiencing something different. So you can learn more or apply at chooserecoveryservices.com and check the show notes for a link. I hope to see you in November.
Let's get back to our episode. Hey, what about, could you maybe paint a picture for us if you didn't do that? Maybe if it's past patterns or whatever, what would the unhealthy way have been to go about it? You talk about the healthy. What would you have done that would have been?
Oh, you just go double down, right? So you go into, I call it playing small, or you go into your shame, right? So it's like, oh, there she is. She wants to leave me. And then it feeds all the old stories of, you suck, you're not enough, you'll never measure up, you ruin everybody's lives. And then I would try to white knuckle it. And I would like try to like pretend everything was okay, but deep inside it wasn't. And inevitably, it's going to find its way out sideways.
Mhm.
And it would find its way out sideways, in my case, either through other forms of numbing. You know, I got into like playing video games and playing way too many video games, or anger. I would
Mhm.
get really irritable and I'd explode on my kids, or the clerk at Walmart or something, and it had nothing to do with them, but because I had nowhere for the smoke to go, it would finally just kind of channel its way out on the easiest target.
Mhm.
And then it went into some depression,
Mhm.
where I found myself having a hard time just getting out of bed every day, and everything was like in grayscale. You know, I don't know how to say that
Yeah,
otherwise, but
I love
like
it.
everything was just gray, and I'd still go through the motions. I'd still go to work. I'd still be a good guy, church, whatever. But deep inside, everything was gray.
Thank you.
You know?
Yeah, I could relate to the part I would get small in hopes that Alana would rescue me from that small.
Yeah.
Be like, I'd be like, I come across supportive, right? Like just like you said, nice guy supportive. Like, what choice do I have? Okay, yeah, Alana, go do whatever you need to in recovery, and then she'd watch me kind of like, I don't know if sulk's the right word, but kind of look abandoned and feel abandoned. And then she'd come in and until she got helped, and then she'd work a process. She stopped doing this, but she'd come in and go like, you can do this, Luke. I thank you for the support. Thank you for not getting in my way, and then I'd keep that pattern going by trying to, trying to immobilize her in her process. And it was gross. Holy crap. It was gross.
Oh man, that's like my favorite thing. That's my favorite move in our relationship, is to like play the victim when she has a complaint about me. Hey Tyler, you don't listen very well sometimes. Oh, I know, you deserve to be with somebody else. You should have a better person. And then she caretakes me and tells me I'm a good man and that it's okay. And then she walks away feeling like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like, and I love the day,
Yeah.
even though it was really hard, when my wife started to get healthier and she came in and she approached me about something that I didn't follow through on with my word. And I started to do that, and she stopped me and she said, "Hey, Tyler, I'm not going to go down this road. I believe that you're a good man and you can hear what I have to say. And when you're ready to listen to me, please come talk to me. But I'm not going to play this game anymore." And I was like, "What? Like,
Yeah.
what?" Like, and that was like the biggest gift she ever gave me, because that kind of called me up into a space of saying, you need to learn how to hold space. You need to learn how to hold your shape. You know, steel beam you're talking about, hold your shape under pressure. Right. And her getting healthier was actually some invitation for me into my own health as well.
Can we talk for a moment? I know we kind of talked about it before, but if the relationship stands a chance, why differentiation will have to be a part of her journey? Like, because if I think sometimes not, I don't know, it's not all logical, but if I go, oh, part of the steps in this journey is if we're going to make it as a couple and be healthy and not go back at old patterns, is she's going to need to be for her own person and figure out and restore that trust within herself. And that is outside of me. So if I don't empower her, then it's not going to work. Can we talk about that, Tyler?
Yeah, maybe we could track back and I just ask your listeners who relate to this, which by the way, I know a lot of them do. You have to ask yourself, what are your ultimate goals for being in the relationship in the first place?
Hmm.
Right? Like, what do you really want in your relationship? And, the answers that I get are that I want deep connection, I want support, I want to be seen, I want to be loved, I want to have a shared journey together, I want to go on an adventure together, I want to grow. And so, if I look at the relationship that I had while the secrets and the addiction, and might even call it codependency or something was going on, was I ever going to produce deep vulnerability, deep connection, deep authenticity if I couldn't even hold my shape with who I was by being an individual, authentic person who was offering myself to the relationship? And on the flip side, if I want those things with my wife, I actually need her authenticity and I need her choice into the relationship in order to have all of the things that I really want. So I can play the game of clinging just to like the mess of pottage of not being single and not being rejected, but never having the depths of vulnerability, the depths of empathy, the depths of her sharing herself with me, where I can invite that growth and go do that growth myself. And then both of us can look at each other and say, I want in with you. And I want in with you. And we are going to grow together. And we see each other's ugly and we know how to dance with that. We see each other's beauty and we're grateful for that. And we can go to some deep places now that we never could before because we were so afraid of the other partner not wanting to be with us.
Mm, that's solid. What what if right now where I'm at in my journey is, can you ask that question again? Can you ask it to me? The question you would ask your clients?
Yeah, I just say,
Let's play this through.
what is it that you're actually wanting in your relationship?
Okay, I'm gonna pick a spot in my journey where this would have been my answer. Okay. I don't know, Tyler. I don't want to lose her. I'm just scared. Like I feel like I was supposed to be with her. I feel like I messed it up, and I don't want to lose her. That's what I. That's my
Yeah,
response to your question.
and I'd say, dude, that makes total sense to me. Nobody, like our biggest fear as human beings is that there's something wrong with us and we'll be rejected. But if you continue to live from that energy and that place, what fruits is it going to produce?
Mm, that's a good question. More of what I already have, I guess.
Yeah, isn't it this weird catch 22 that the more you try to cling to something with fear, the more you kind of make that fearful thing come to reality?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long has it been going on for you where you've been producing that over and over and over again?
My whole entire life.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh, that is so tiring. That is so exhausting. That is so frustrating. I get it, man. But
Mhm.
but there has to be a different way because you're going to
So,
keep producing the same things.
so Tyler, how is that shift made? I know it's a larger conversation, maybe for another day or whatever. If I'm just in that space of going like, I know what Tyler's saying is accurate. I just can't get my body to recognize it. Like,
Yeah.
I can't leave. I'm struggling to leave fear of, because I think it's really easy to say all day long what I want in a healthy relationship, what I'm like logically thinking, of course I want, but in those scary moments, it's like, I know that's not really what I'm going to go after.
100%. I often draw on my whiteboard with my clients. I want versus I want, and they'll tell me I want connection, I want vulnerability, I want this, I want this. And it's
Well,
like,
versus I want.
yeah, yeah. And then I have another side of I want, and I say the way that your behaviors are showing up is it looks like you want this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh yeah, I do. I'm like, but your behaviors are the one that are going to produce the fruits. So
That's good.
which
Can
of
you
these do you want?
slow that down for me, will you? The I want, like
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit more.
Yeah. So in essence, to what you're saying is I want, and they'll tell me I want to be seen. I want to be loved. I want to be able to offer my strength. I want all these things. They're the right answers in your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, but the behaviors that I'm seeing in your relationship or in your life right now are this and this and this, which seem to be producing these things. And it seems like you want self-protection. It seems like you want to cling to things that maybe aren't ever going to give you what you're looking for. It seems like you're living from a place of like playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And for good reason. Nobody likes to live in fear all the time. That makes sense. But your behaviors are more likely to produce the fruits of this want versus that want. And they both come with a price.
Mm-hmm.
One comes with a price that leads you to hope, growth, possibility. And the other one leads you to a place of your own prison cell eventually emotionally.
Yeah,
right.
solid. That's so solid. Okay, I think we tackled the differentiation piece, why there's a need for that. Was there anything else on that for her, like encouraging her to have wings, encouraging her to find her own person, why it's not going to work unless that happens?
Yeah, I would just say that this is actually, and we're talking about it for her, but I would actually say that this process is important for both.
Mm-hmm.
And you were asking, like, maybe it's a whole other episode, and I'll just give a really short answer to it, to what you asked. Like, how do I go about that? Then if I relate to that and I'm saying, oh man, like I want to be able to say yes to that and actually mean it when she goes and wants to spread her wings, but I'm not there right now. For most of the men that I work with, the place that we have to start with is shame resiliency. And part of the shame resiliency work is some of their trauma work, where they've got core beliefs about themselves that will continually get in their own way until they go and start learning to see and treat themselves differently. And so we talk about 3 C's of shame resiliency. One is the context, actually learning about the things that I deal with, learning that I'm not alone, getting the bigger picture. That's more of a mental tool. And then we talk about courage, which is the ability to tell your story to some safe places and let people see you and love you even inside of all of the midst of your darkness. And then we talk about compassion, learning to replace judgment of yourself with compassion, curiosity, and understanding. And if I can start to practice those things on the day-to-day, that becomes part of my lifestyle. Over time, those repetitions start to shift and move me to where I start to say, hey, I kind of like who I am. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm not perfect and I'm going to keep growing. But man, I kind of like who I am today. And so that's what we do with them, we try to buy time in their process of their marriage for them to do some of that personal work.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, this has been rich, Tyler. I think for me it was important, and I'm so glad you joined in this conversation, and our listeners got a chance to have exposure to you, and you're hearing that your podcast exists that they don't already know. But guys, just to encourage you to just notice where you're at in recovery. Notice how much maybe you've had some awareness around of where you're not supporting your partner in their journey, and maybe it's not just holding her back. Maybe you're stuck because of it too. Maybe you don't see where you haven't differentiated. So, Tyler, I appreciate you joining the conversation. Any closing words for us, Tyler?
Yeah, I'll just say this, and this is for anyone who's listening who might be in a place of darkness still. I'm a father of 4 daughters, and I feel like it's my life calling to help produce the kind of men that my daughters will want to marry. And when you look at the principles of recovery, if you're listening and you're feeling hopeless, or you're feeling like you're in a dark spot, the principles of recovery produce the kind of men that my daughters want to marry. I want every one of my daughters to marry a man in active recovery because they're humble, they know how to show empathy, they know how to take ownership, they hold their shape under pressure, they live authentically. Who doesn't want to be married to that guy? So if you're in that spot right now, there is a path forward, there is hope. lift up your eyes, get your feet off the floor, and get to work.
Love that. Thanks for those words. Well, it was a pleasure to spend time with you, Tyler. To everybody, take care, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.
Hi, I'm Beth, and I am one of the Betrayal trauma coaches with Choose Recovery Services. I am offering a free monthly Tender Resilience Creative Healing Circle. And what that is, it's going to be an hour-long art experiential group where we will come together as women walking through betrayal trauma to experience art as a process. No art experience is needed, just a space and place to feel connected, to reawaken some art in you and give it a try if it's not something you're sure about. And I would love to see you join us. Again, it's monthly on the second Friday of every month, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time. You will need to register even though it's free, and you can do that through the Choose Recovery Services website and or go to the link in the show notes to go to the registration.
If part of you keeps wondering, should I come to this Courage to Thrive intensive? I want you to listen to that question with compassion. Because many women minimize their pain. They tell themselves other people have it worse, or I should be over this by now, or maybe I just need him to get better and then I'll be okay. But betrayal trauma impacts your mind, your body, your nervous system, your sense of safety, your identity, and your ability to trust yourself. And healing was never meant to happen alone. Courage to Thrive is a space where you can finally exhale, a space where you don't have to explain why it hurts so deeply, a space where women around you simply get it. You'll experience powerful workshops, experiential healing activities, nervous system support, connection, education, and practical tools that you can take home with you. Most women leave saying, I finally don't feel crazy anymore. And many also leave realizing that I matter too. So if something inside you feels drawn to this experience, honor that. That quiet voice inside you may already know what you need. I hope you'll join us August 25th through 28th in Spanish Fork, Utah.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Beyond the Facade. If today's conversation resonates with you, I encourage you to explore the resources available through Choose Recovery Services and Blueprint Institute. Beyond the Facade is presented through a collaboration between these two organizations, both of which are committed to helping men and families find lasting healing, growth, and recovery. Through coaching, therapy, groups, intensives, and immersive recovery experiences, our mission is to help people move beyond survival and into lives marked by authenticity, connection, and integrity. You'll find links to both organizations along with any resources mentioned in today's episode in the show notes. Until next time, keep pursuing authenticity, keep doing the work, and keep moving beyond the facade.